Are you the type of person that says, money doesn't grow on trees, or I can't afford that, or that's too expensive, or, the economy's screwing my money, or whatever? Are you giving your power away with the way that you speak about money, the dialogue that you have around money? Or are you empowered with your dialogue? Are you saying, I am looking for opportunities everywhere I go to create more money? Money is a free-flowing resource that I'm learning how to cultivate better. It's the same thing if you're dating. If you have the impression that in your city, in your state, in your town, there are no good men to date, then I hate to break it to you, there will be no good men to date, because what we say becomes our vision, our lens of how we interact with the world. So if you're going to look for love in your life, if you're going to look for money in your life, the dialogue you have around it is so important. Welcome to Old Money, a show dedicated to helping you build the trust fund you wish you were born with. Ladies who lunch, listen up. Life is not about looking rich. I want you to build a life and a legacy that feels rich in every sense of the word. If you're ready to stack cash, talk shop, and trade insider secrets, you're in the right place. These are the new rules to Old Money, so let's get after it. Hello, rich girls. Welcome back to Old Money, the podcast for women building the trust funds they wish they were born with. I'm your host, Amber Frankusen. And this episode, I have rich vibes coming your way. They are cultivated, they are curated. And I'm really about making sure that every time you show up to this podcast, you walk away feeling wealthier, because that is what we're here to tap into, is not just the tactics, the management. All of that financial literacy stuff is important, yes, but more importantly than that is the empowerment that we have around our money. So that's what I want to talk about today. But nothing's better than starting off with a little bit of gossip, which I have for you today. Nothing too salacious. In fact, I might do a whole nother Gossip Girl episode so we can talk about what's going on in pop culture right now. But I have a major announcement. Old Money Podcast is in the top 2% of all podcasts world freaking wide, and I have you to thank for it. I am shocked. I'm shooketh. I got this link to look up the status of the podcast in relation to all of the podcasts in the world, and there are millions. So let us not be misled by this. There are a million podcasts in the world, and some people started a podcast for one episode and then never came back to it again. So obviously that's going to do good for your rankings. And I think I've mentioned this before too, of how legitimate are these, but this ranking of top 2% of the world is actually pretty significant in comparison to some of the podcasts that I listen to and the podcasts that I admire and what's, coming through in the world. And it's been such an interesting journey for me with the growth of this podcast. And I was even just asked recently, what are my goals with the podcast? And I just am here to grow our network, our community, and find my tribe, find our tribe together. For the first year, at least, that's all I'm focused on, is just creating great content with you and collaborating with you all and answering the questions that you want to have answered, because that's what's really fun for me. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for everybody that pushes play, has clicked subscribe, that has left a review, that has shared the podcast on their Instagram stories. This has been such an incredible journey so far, and we're just getting started. So thank you so much for making Old Money top 2% podcasts in the world. And secondly, this is episode number 49, which is nutty because I just started this podcast August of 2023. 49, that's a year's worth of content almost. So we're about to hit episode 50. Coming up next episode is episode 50, which is so gnarly. And I'm just going back. I haven't listened back to any of the original early podcasts because I'm sure I would cringe. In fact, I barely listen to these podcasts now when they get dropped because I cringe at myself. But what's so apropos about this all is that the very first episode of Old Money is called Make Money Your Boyfriend. And I still love that so much. And today we're diving deeper into that relationship. It's what today's episode is all about, really dating your money and really going from a situationship into an engagement and a long-term partnership with your money. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you are somebody who has resistance around money dates, who is feeling like, oh, the last thing I want to do is sit down and look at my bank account. The last thing I want to do is sit down and look at how much debt I owe. Please do not go away. Please stay with me. I have a solution for you so we can make this a little bit less painful. And for members of the Old Money Country Club, which if you're listening to this, you are invited to join and become a member. We will make you martinis. We will make you grasshoppers. Well, actually, you have to make your own, but you're more than welcome to drink them as you're perusing the club. Old Money Country Club, link to join our private online community is in the show notes. It's on our Instagram. I need to put it somewhere on the website, but if you're in the OMCC, you'll have a bonus available for you at the beginning of June that ties into this episode. So if you're not in it yet, now's the time to join so you can reap the rewards of being within the club and networking with all of the phenomenal women that are there. But I digress. So the first episode, as I mentioned, of this podcast was how to make money your boyfriend. And in that podcast episode, I talked about 3 kind of pillars of how to improve a relationship. And it's the same types of pillars that you would follow if you were trying to start a relationship with another human being, like a romantic relationship. I talk about the dialogue, the details, and the dating. First of all, the dialogue was all about how you talk about money. Like, how do you relate to it? Are you the type of person that says, money doesn't grow on trees, or I can't afford that, or that's too expensive, or the economy's screwing my money, or whatever? Are you giving your power away with the way that you speak about money, the dialogue that you have around money? Or are you empowered with your dialogue? Are you saying, I am looking for opportunities everywhere I go to create more money? Money is a free-flowing resource that I'm learning how to cultivate better. It's the same thing if you're dating. If you have the impression that in your city, in your state, in your town, there are no good men to date, then I hate to break it to you, there will be no good men to date, because what we say becomes our vision, our lens of how we interact with the world. So if you're going to look for love in your life, if you're going to look for money in your life, the dialogue you have around it is so important. The details are all about how you treat the process. Like when you go on a date, you usually put your best self forward, right? You get dressed up, you're going to do your makeup, you're going to make sure that you're, shaved everywhere and ready for an opportunity if it comes your way. It's the same thing with your cash, right? Like the details need to be cleaned up. You need to have your accounts in order. You need to have your passwords organized. You need to keep your cash nice and neat, show some respect to yourself and to your money, and make sure that everything is set up to run smoothly. And then when you're starting to get to know someone, if you're interested in forming a long-term relationship with them, you're going to date, right? Like you have to go out on dates and see if you vibe and see how you're going to get along and if you're compatible. And we know you're compatible with money. So this dating process is exactly how it would be if you were dating a partner. If you were dating a man or a woman, you would be getting to know them better, right? You're asking them the important questions. You're diving deeper and you're learning how they think, how they work, how they operate, and how you in relation to them can operate to have a harmonious relationship together. So today we're talking about how to have the perfect date, the perfect money date, not April 25th, because it's not too hot, not too cold. All you need is a light jacket. We're talking about a money date. And these are practices that I believe every woman in the world should do. And in fact, every corporation in the world does this. If you've ever worked in corporate and you've been in a budget meeting, a finance meeting, or an accounting meeting, 2 different types of meetings, by the way, that's what we're going to talk about today. But what you're doing there is having a money date, and you're looking at the profitability, the expenses, the overhead, the opportunities to make changes, reassess where money flows, where the revenue comes in. That happens in a corporation. And as you know, I believe that we are the CEOs of our life, and we need to take responsibility for having these money dates because nobody else is going to do it for us. This is the business of my life. Like I take this very seriously. And just because I take it seriously does not mean that I don't have fun with it. I love to do this. But like I said, no one else is going to make a great relationship for you. And again, relating it back to a relationship that you're in. And this could be any type of relationship, a romantic relationship, heterosexual, homosexual, doesn't matter your gender identity or expression, your sexuality. It's just a general rule, right? You're going to have a relationship. It could be a beautiful relationship with a great connection, fun, excitement, sex, whatever. But if you're going to build a deep relationship, you are likely also going to have to navigate hard conversations, negotiations, and compromise to make sure that you're holding each other to high standards for one another, and not out of a demand for like compliance of behavior, but because you both want to get better and you want to grow. You want to grow as a person. Your money wants to grow for you. I want you to retire comfortably and party all along the way. So with that, it does take a dedication and a devotion, like a romantic devotion to working with your money to build this relationship. I feel like the notion of having a trust fund is equivalent to like princess stories from Disney that we grew up with, right? Like we all thought, oh my gosh, we're going to be rescued by a prince and live happily ever after. But the reality is that that prince is still not going to take out the trash, and you're still going to get into conflict, and he's still going to overspend on like a random boat one year. And you're going to be like, what the fuck? And you're going to have a serious conversation about it. You're going to have to do unsexy things if you want to live the life of your dreams. And that doesn't mean it has to be hard and you don't have to suffer. But if you want to achieve mutual respect and equal partnership, if you want to evolve, it's going to take some dedication and some devotion and some tenderness and some attention. If you check out of managing your money and you're not paying attention to it, it's not going to grow the way you want it to grow. Think about it like a plant. It's like those plants that you trained like grow in specific directions. In fact, that's such an old money thing, like a little diamond trellis situation. All you have to do to get that to go is set up the diamond, plant the plant, and it normally goes where you need it to go. And then you prune it, you train it, and it grows as it should, and it looks beautiful. But if you just plant a random plant in a random pot or a random piece of dirt, it might not thrive. It might be like mint and take over your entire garden and fuck everything up. So if you want to grow a healthy garden of your money, you're going to need to be intentional about it. You plant the seeds, you water them, you maintain it, you prune it back, you reassess, you do the seasonality thing. I don't know anything about gardening. This is a random analogy that just popped in my head. My point is this. You can't just sit on your couch and manifest a trust fund to fall in your lap. If you want to build one, you're going to need to be intentional about it. And that's what money dates are for. Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. Let's start talking about date night basics. Same rules apply when you're dating your spouse, your significant other. Why do we go on dates with our partners? Why do we continue to date them even after we're married? Well, it's because we have to keep the spark alive, not because we have to, because we want to, because we want a relationship that's growing and that's exciting and continues to serve us as we evolve. Same thing goes for our money. We need to continually tend to the relationship and make sure that we are taking care of one another, right? These must be planned in advance. I recommend putting these into your Google Calendar and setting an automated, like a recurring event. When I was starting my money journey, like really starting to get serious about getting out of debt, it's kind of like when you start to learn portion control with food. You have to measure everything at the beginning. You have to count your macros. You need to track your food using like MyFitnessPal. But after a while of doing that, you recalibrate and you kind of start to learn, okay, this is about this much protein, or I need to eat this with this meal so I don't feel full in 5 minutes. It's the same thing with money, where when you're spending and not tracking, it's really hard to know how many calories are in the cake, right? It's really hard to kind of calibrate of what percentage of my budget did I just eat up. And so I found when I started my journey, I needed to have a money date every single week, sometimes twice a week, to write down and track everything that I was spending. That's not what I do now at all, but I really needed to get a grasp on my portion control of how I was spending. And so if you are in a stage where you're really making some significant changes to your financial habits, I recommend setting up a money date and prioritizing it. at a time when you know you're going to be alive and well. So that does not mean first thing on a Monday morning. It's not 5 o'clock on a Friday. It's some neutral time where you know you have solo time for you to turn your phone on Do Not Disturb and sit down with your money and spend some time with it. If you have a partner, if you're married and you share finances, this can absolutely be a date that you do with your partner. We can go into this. I know we've talked about it in a previous episode of like how to get your partner to sit down with you and do these processes with you and get aligned with your finances. By the way, if you haven't listened to the last episode, I talk about the absolute trauma I experienced from watching an episode of Remit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich podcast on YouTube. And this man who had just completely checked out of the financial leadership in his relationship. It was so cringe to watch. And if you have a partner like that, oh my gosh, I feel for you, number one, but I do know that you can still be successful in your relationship and your finances with conversations, support, evolution, change. I'm not a couples therapist, so I can't even go into that right now. Holy cow, that man was just out to lunch. My point is this. You can totally do a date with you and your money and your partner, but I do recommend that you both kind of set together an agenda, and I have an agenda for you to do a solo date, but kind of tackle one thing at a time. You're not going to solve every problem in one night. Tackle one topic a month, one thing a month, and both come to the meeting prepared like you would for work. This is the business of your life, so treat it as such. It should be sacred. It should be a priority. And it should also be something that you look forward to. So if you listen to the episode with Samantha Bird Shiloh that I did, she was so great. And she is a financial literacy educator for children. And she started this and she works in insurance. So she was learning personal finance and she has 3 young boys. She talks about how she does money dates with her kids. And they do exactly what I'm suggesting that we do as adults in their money dates. They get their allowance and they allocate it to expenses or savings or investing or giving, whatever it might be. And yes, even though they're kids, they do have mock expenses. She gives them, I think it's like $3 of a baseline of allowance per month. And they have $3 for like utilities, water, and rent or something like that. But they can also earn extra money through doing chores. So it gives them a chance to learn, which is exactly what a money date is for you. But she talks about how she makes it fun. Like they have a snack. I think it's really important that you're well fed, not hangry while you're doing this. She said that they popped a bottle of sparkling apple cider. They make it a special occasion. They have a lot of energy around it. And I think that's important for us to do for ourselves as well. So setting the stage and getting it all dialed, I think it goes a long way to make this an experience that you can look forward to. But let's talk about the other side of that, because I know there are people out there, because this used to be me, that are hearing this and they're like, no fucking way. Actually, they probably already turned this episode off, because the thought of sitting with and looking at how much money you have or you don't have, or the bills that you owe, or the debt that you're in, it can be so overwhelming and it can be so disheartening. And I know it can be. I know it can be because I've been there. If you are experiencing resistance to participating in this, number one, it's very normal. That is a very, very normal reaction when you are not feeling empowered about your money. But I want to remind you that nothing changes if nothing changes. So I'd really love for you to envision, and we're going to go through this in a minute, yourself in a future state of being financially secure and asking yourself, what is it going to take for me to get there? And no matter how scary it is or how uncomfortable it is, you are going to build that muscle and build confidence in yourself by showing up for yourself over and over again, even if it's just in little increments, to do right by yourself. And I cannot tell you how powerful it is for your self-image, for you to keep promises to yourself, for you to show up for yourself, even when it's hard. And I'm not saying that this should just be easy, but there are some things that you can do to make this feel less painful. So we're going to talk about that. Before you start, you got to set the stage, okay? You've got to make sure that you have a beverage. Like I said, you're well fed. This could be wine, this could be tea, no judgment here. Just don't get drunk while you're doing this. Make sure that you're comfortable. Make sure that you are protected energetically. You do not have any distractions. You do not have anything else to do right now. You can close the door, get yourself just an hour of having your husband watch the kids, drop them off at mom's house, do something for yourself. I want you to also make this ritualistic. So whatever that looks like for you, maybe you're lighting some Palo Santo, maybe you're saying a prayer, maybe you're lighting a candle, whatever it is, put on some of your favorite perfume, put on some lip gloss, whatever makes you feel good, do that. I think it's really helpful to have my headphones on, like noise canceling, and I put on some lo-fi music and really get into the mood. Like I want to set the mood of me being my most expansive and incredible future version of me. And scent does that, music does that to me, lighting does that, being relaxed does that for me. And I feel I make better decisions when I'm thinking about future me. And before you start, this is my biggest thing. And this is something I learned from my good friend, Natalia Benson. I did one of her workshops when I was driving across the state, and she was doing a live workshop, and she walked us through this incredible mini meditation before we even started talking about dollars and cents. And this is not exactly what she did, but this is my version that I've adopted for myself, which is before I start anything, honestly, if I start working with my money, before I go into a big meeting for work, before I start doing this podcast, I do the same thing. I put both of my feet securely on the ground, uncross my legs, both feet on the ground, close my eyes, and I take a big deep breath. And I start by thinking of something that I am so grateful for. And I feel it in my cells. I'm feeling it in the depth of my being with my gratitude. Not going to lie, most of the times I'm mostly grateful for my dog. Like I'm here, Poppy is here, she's sleeping next to me right now. And if I go deep and think about how she's my best friend and how we love each other, and I'm so obsessed with her, and I cannot believe I get to walk around on this planet as it spins around the sun, and this little fluffy creature is my shadow and my partner in crime, and I get to cuddle with her and squish her face. It takes me to a place of gratitude that I'm so immensely happy for. Take another really big deep breath. And I think about something that I'm so proud of myself for. I want to thank myself for something. I want you to thank yourself for something. Give yourself a compliment. This could be a way that you handled something at work. It could be something that you did for yourself this week with money. Maybe you're proud of yourself for handling a hard conversation, being there for a friend, going to the gym when you said you were going to do it. Like give yourself some props. Nobody gives us enough snaps. We have to give ourselves our own flowers. So this is your chance to do it. I want you to get super grateful for yourself and the way that you've showed up. And maybe it was just from putting on this podcast and listening through when you were feeling resistance to wanting to do this. Like give yourself props for the easiest things that you can, because as women, we show up and we have to do the hard work every day. And the third thing that I want you to do after you take another big deep breath is get into envisioning future you, the woman you know you're becoming. You're on your way to her by listening to this podcast, by becoming a member of Old Money Country Club, by reaching out to somebody that you have something in common with, or somebody you can help, or somebody you want to connect with. You're becoming the future version of yourself. Every time you make an investment decision or a spending decision or a health decision, it's taking you one step closer to the woman you're becoming. So I ask you, you're on your way to her. What does this vision of you look like? How does she look? Is she vibrant? Is her skin glowing? Does she look like a glazed donut? Is she in athleisure? Is she in a power suit? Is she on stage just having finished giving a keynote? Is she leading a meeting in a corporate boardroom? Is she sitting down to record a podcast or posing for a photo in a magazine? Is she picking up her kids from school and chatting with the other moms because she has all the time in the world? Whatever that version of you is, I want you to think about and feel how good it feels to be her. I want you to, from this place, embody what it feels like, how your body feels, what you're wearing, if you're smiling, if you're laughing, if you're feeling proud, feel the feelings in your body. And then from that place, go back and thank yourself for today, for the work you're putting in to become her right now. Just like you did in step 2, you went back and you gave yourself a compliment for something that you did in the last week or the last month that honored yourself today. You're going to do the same thing now, but from the version of future you coming back and thanking you, present you, for doing this today. I want you to feel empowered managing your money. I want you to come to this with an attitude of problem solving, with devotion to your future self, to maximizing this experience that you're having on earth so that you can buy the expensive perfume, you can go on the big vacations, you have more toys to play with, you can go to more concerts, feel more feelings, be financially available to help those in need, to put your niece through college, to treat your parents to an amazing dinner or buy them a car or pay off their mortgage. All of the things you wish to experience in your life that become easier with money and with more resources, even if it's having the resources to expand your family through having a baby or adopting or anything like that. You deserve to have everything that you want. And I want you to have it. And it all starts with paying attention to your money, having intention with your money. That's why we have money dates. And I'm telling you, I'm promising you that as soon as you start having regular money dates, your relationship with money will improve. No matter where you're starting, it's the same as if you're dating a partner in a romantic relationship. If you want to get to know somebody better, you date them. When you decide that you like them, you continue to build that relationship. You continue to enjoy each other. You continue to invest in one another and spend time with one another so you can better learn how each other can grow and evolve and hold each other to higher standards. It's the exact same thing with your money. Hey, Rich Girls, if you're anything like me and want to live back in 1969 at the Palm Royale Country Club, having martinis, playing tennis, and living your best life, well, I have a surprise for you. You are cordially invited to join the very first and only Old Money Country Club right here on the internet. That's right. We finally put together an online community for all of our rich girls and boys to come together and find the inspiration they need, the resources they want, and the community they crave. That's right. We are not only building our net worths, but we are building our network. And this is the place where you're going to connect with all of the other rich girls that are out there on this financial journey with you, because I need you to know you are not alone. No matter where you are at in your financial journey, whether you're paying off debt, tracking your net worth, learning to invest, or wanting to start a business, there are other women out there who are trying to do the same thing as you, and you need to meet them. These are your new best friends and your new business partners. So in this online community, the Old Money Country Club, you're going to find the resources that we have for the show. You're going to have monthly money date prompts where I'm actually going to show up and do money dates with you to keep us all accountable and healthy on our money journey. There'll be exclusive information you can't find anywhere else. And I promise you, you're going to want to come in, shake up a martini, and join us in this country club. Find the link to join in the show notes. I welcome you in there. Again, find our link to join in the show notes or check us out on social. We love you so, so much and can't wait to see you on the inside. So, getting down to the nitty-gritty, what happens in a money date? Well, first of all, I have 2 formulas for money dates, okay? One's a date night in and one's a date night out. But I have to ask you a question. Like, if you are in a relationship with your honey and you're on a budget, are you going out and blowing it all on caviar, or are you making spaghetti at home? Because I know for me, especially when I was starting on my money dates, I was making spaghetti at home every week, okay? And I was making it as leanly as I could because I didn't have extra money to spend out and go be lavish. And that's not what I'm encouraging anybody to do here. A money date actually can be done very quickly, very efficiently, and in the comfort of your own home, in your pajamas or your underwear or whatever makes you happy. In my money dates at home, I have 5 steps. Very easy. They all start with review, record, reassess, remit, and reflect. Review, record, reassess, remit, and reflect. Those are my 5 steps to a money date. Again, this is just something that I made up for me. I do this once a month. I spend about an hour managing my money, getting everything in line, knowing what my budget is for the next month, and then I go have fun again. Like managing your money should not be something that you're stressing over, slaving over all of the time. It's something that you should absolutely tend to, but doesn't have to be a heavy lift. Okay. So let's talk about each of the steps. Review. What I do personally is I download my account activity from any place that I've transacted money in the month. So that means my checking accounts, which is where my paycheck gets deposited. It's also my credit cards where I do all of my spending. I'll download all of that into CSV for the month. So I'll go on to Wells Fargo and to Chase, which are the two banks that I transact the most with. And I'll download the activity for the month of May, for example, for any card or account that I used. And those are really the only places that money comes in and out in a meaningful way. But I also will pull up the website for Capital One, which is where I have my personal high yield savings account. And I'll log into my Vanguard, to my Charles Schwab, to my company's simple IRA. So I have all of my things open and dialed. And by the way, as we talked about at the top of the show, the details, this is from episode 1. If you do not yet have a password manager, it has been such a game changer for me. I use it for our company. It's called 1Password, and it keeps all of your passwords organized. Google has a free plugin for this. Just take one. Maybe your first money day is just figuring out what all your passwords are and writing them down in Google so that you can save them and not have this be such a lift every time you need to log in somewhere, because I know that can really be annoying. So I download my account activity into a spreadsheet. I use Excel. If you have a Mac, use Numbers or whatever, use Google Sheets. And all I do is I go through and I look at every single expense, and I do this in maybe 5 minutes. I just create a category and I just label it. Now, these categories, I've been doing this for years, so I know what categories are on my monthly budget plan. So I just go through and I'll say groceries, gas, lashes, Poppy's insurance, Poppy's food, eating out, coffee, income, whatever it might be. And I just run down the list and I just make sure everything has a label. It's as easy as that. And now there's some things in there like, I don't know, when I pay off my credit card, for example. Well, one account's going to show that I withdrew $3,000 from Wells Fargo to pay the $3,000 bill on Chase or whatever it might be. And it just zeroes out. So it doesn't really matter. Just all the credit card stuff. I just say credit card, and it all zeroes out really, really easy. And what I do in this review is I just look at every single transaction. I know exactly where my money goes every single month because I look at every single transaction. I don't have to inspect it, but this makes sure I don't have any money leaks. Like I don't have any extra subscriptions that I don't know what they are. There's nothing accidentally running on my card. And this process, like I said, downloading it is more of a pain in the ass than going through and reviewing it. Just categorizing it is my review. And listen, make whatever categories make sense to you. Childcare, kids' clothes, household supplies. I just have, and I don't get so granular with it. I have like an Amazon line item in my budget because who knows what I buy on Amazon. This week it was all of these random car accessories. And then sometimes it's like a dupe for a pair of Gucci sunglasses. And then sometimes it's toilet paper and Windex. Like I just don't care enough to go back and look through. So I just know like, okay, that's kind of my Amazon budget for the month, right? So I've got these spreadsheets. I've categorized them. Now I'm going to record. That's the second step. So we did review. Now we're recording. And I have a spreadsheet. I made it myself. I'm really hesitant to like, and we need to talk about this. So girlies in the Old Money Country Club, like if you need a budget tracker, like this is going to be a major investment for me to like put this together as a template, much more complicated than the net worth or the networking tracker. But I've been using this system for years and it works really well for me. And what I do with the categories is I just add up the categories to give me a total. So I can see all the times that I ate out and then I plug it into my spreadsheet, my tracker that shows me my budget every single month. And as I told you, over time now, I kind of can spot check during the month and I know when I'm overspending on something. And I also kind of have an idea of my categories and where I underspend or when I'm going to be on target for things, just like managing your calories. When you're learning how to change your eating habits, changing your financial habits is the exact same thing. So I go through and I make sure that I was on target for my budget. And again, when I was first learning how to do this, I would do this every single week. If you go back to my very early episodes where I talk about getting out of debt, I tell you that I was using all cash for stuff because I was so dysregulated with what my spending actually was and how it was impacting my budget that I started with cash and then I was managing it every single week. Then I went to every other week. Then I went to going back to a debit card. When I paid off all my debt, I started putting things on credit cards because they built that muscle of knowing how much I was spending on stuff. So I track all of this stuff, I categorize it, and then I record it in my monthly spending plan. And I make sure that everything that I spent, invested, moved over to savings is all recorded. So my spreadsheet is like, just to give you an idea, I know this is so random. Like, let me walk you through in audio what my spreadsheet looks like. But basically, across the top of the page, I have January, February, March, but there's two categories. It's January budget, January actual. February budget, February actual, and so on and so forth. And then I have going down from top to bottom, different categories. So the top category is income, and I have all of my sources of income listed there. That could be my paycheck that gets auto deposited into my checking account. It could be an owner's draw from my company or a disbursement. It could be money that I moved from a savings account into my checking because I have saved something. I've earmarked something that I was going to spend on this month. So in the episode, I think it's episode 5, I talk about how I set up my savings accounts. It's about, I think it's called Afford Everything You Want. And essentially, I'll be saving a little bit every single month so that when Christmas comes around, for example, I have an extra budget of $1,000 to spend on gifts. And so I'll take the money out of the savings account and move it into my checking account. That becomes like extra income that I have for that month because I've earmarked those funds in a high yield savings account. In Capital One, you can categorize each of the savings accounts so they have specific goals. So when we travel and I spend a couple grand on a hotel, I already have that money sitting in a savings account. I just move it over into my checking account and then it pays off my credit card, just like income would, like just fund more income. I had more income sitting around for me. So that's how I do income. Beneath that is savings. And I have saving categories here. And as I mentioned, they all have their own labels. I have investment, I have retirement, I have my vacation fund, my Botox fund, my dog fund, whatever it is. And every month I have automatic transfers from my checking account, which is where my paycheck comes into my savings accounts. And those align with what my goals are for the year. So if I want to go on 3 vacations in 2025, and I know that each of them are going to cost me, I don't know, $2,500, I need to save $7,500 so that I can very easily pay those experiences off in 2025 and do what I want with it. And if I have a windfall for whatever reason, maybe it's extra income or my tax return. That's a great example. I just got a tax return in April. And so that's quote unquote extra income, but I didn't spend it. I put it all into savings for bigger goals that I have. So that was income. And then I just add more to the savings that I'm putting in there and I track it all right there, right? All of these transactions are all recorded in the summaries that I download from my checking account. It's very easy to track. So from there, we've reviewed everything where I categorized it. I recorded it all in my wealth tracker. Then the next thing that I do is I reassess. So I'm constantly reassessing where my money's going. So I'm now looking, because I've recorded it, I'm looking at my budget and my actual. I'm like, okay, I overspent in clothes this month. What do I need to adjust next month to make sure that it all balances out, or I, make sure that things get paid? Do I need to change how much money I'm saving? I was actually saving too much money in 2024. And I was like, why do I feel so poor? And it's because I was saving so much money, but I did not have any disposable income. And I was feeling like very stretched all the time. So I needed to reassess that and adjust my savings automations. I also adjusted up my investing automations because, as we know, after you have an emergency fund saved, you should be putting all of your excess money into investing. We need to talk more about that. By the way, we've only done 1 or 2 episodes on investing. I will come back to that. I totally promise. But I want to make sure that I'm putting as much money as possible away so that it can grow without me. That is how my money works for me. If you have debt and you're repaying debt, you might need to assess what your monthly expenditures are so that you can pay off more debt. So you might be reassessing things that are bigger than payments. Like maybe you're canceling subscriptions. Maybe you're noticing that your fixed costs for housing or for your car payments are too high. Maybe you're looking at getting a roommate. Maybe you're looking at getting a different car. Maybe you're looking at giving up your car and being a one-car household. The reassess portion can be really uncomfortable. I want to remind you that nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you want to continue to live in the status quo that you are in, you can do that. If you don't like how you feel right now, I encourage you to change your situation so that you can feel more empowered, more in control, more excited about making money. If you are looking at your income and you're seeing, I am not making enough income to survive in this economy, as Alex McCord said, you might be looking at getting a new job. You might be getting a second job, a side hustle. You are making big decisions in the reassess category. And that's where this can get really overwhelming. And I know, because you know what's not fun is moving or getting a new job or cutting back on things or feeling like you're deprived or you can't have what you want, saying no. I hate saying no. I do. I know you do too. It doesn't feel good and it sucks, right? But in the reassess category, this is where we really have a chance to reflect. It's actually the last kind of step of this process, but what is really going to move the needle for you is not just cutting out your lattes. It's making the bigger decisions of up-leveling your income, of changing your fixed expenses, of managing better your variable expenses, looking for more opportunities. I want you to go back to that 3 deep breaths exercise. It's 3 breaths and 3 thoughts, feelings in your body, something that you're grateful for. You already have what you need right now. I want you to be proud of yourself for what you've done for yourself recently. And I want you to think about the future you, the woman you're becoming. What does she want out of this life? And what does she need you to do today to make that happen? It's all for you, baby. Like, this is all for you. And I am living proof of having been in debt and being super sensitive to it and being crushed by it, to changing my life and having a life that really feels supportive to me right now. Reassessment is reassessment of goals. It's reassessment of the automation that you have set up, of the debt repayment, of how you're handling that, managing subscriptions, expenses, income. The reassessment is where you're making an action item for yourself that you're going to execute on when you leave this money date. Just a reminder, you're not going to solve everything in one meeting. Give yourself some grace, one thing at a time, okay? The next step is a very easy one. It's remit payment for anything that you need to pay. Maybe it's your credit cards, maybe it's bills, maybe it's debt, anything that you can pay. Let's do that right now. Let's also remit payment to ourselves. Don't forget that you're not working to pay creditors. I don't want you to work to pay credit card companies. I don't want you to work to pay interest on your car loan. I want you to work to build assets and to build a life and to make your money work for you. And I want you to be excited about working and building something. So we're remitting payment to ourselves, baby. If you are not yet automatically saving, let's do that now. And anything that you see left over from the previous month, you are remitting that payment back to yourself. I want you to feel really good about doing that every single month. And then the last step in this money date is reflection. What went wrong? What went right? What did we see in overages last month? Why were we over? Were there emotions that were causing us to overspend? Were there extenuating circumstances? And what am I going to do in the next month to realign with my goals, with future me, of what I really want to experience? If you are a member of the Old Money Country Club, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to drop a bonus in the chit chat area of the online network so that you can see my reflection for my money dates every single month. And I'll share with you a couple of things. I'm going to drop some things in there over the next few months, like meditations, intention setting, that have been really impactful for me. So go check that out in Old Money Country Club. So those are your 5 steps for an at-home money date. Again, this is the spaghetti version of being on a budget and getting your stuff in order. I still do this every single month: review, record, reassess, remit, and reflect. Now, what happens when you're ready to go out on the town and have an actual sexy date with your money. This is something else that I do. I do not do it as often, but I do take myself out on a date every once in a while just to sit with myself and my money and what I'm doing. You're like, bitch, you're obsessed with money. And you know what? I kind of am, because it is the fuel to my life and it gives me a lot of options, a lot of resources, and a lot of fun. So I take myself out on dates and we talk about money. And by we, I mean me and my laptop, because that's what I bring. I love to go to a nice hotel, a good restaurant, something in the afternoon where it's a vibe and I can get a glass of champagne. Again, this is within budget. It's not an expense that you're incurring that you're stretching for. This is an investment in envisioning what the next step of my money journey is going to be. Your phone's on do not disturb, and you are out there living your best life, feeling sexy at a bar or a restaurant or a park, wherever you are, feeling into the future version of you. You are journaling into this expansion. You are setting bigger goals for yourself. Maybe you're working on embodying the feeling of that next level of wealth. You're asking yourself, what does it feel like when I cross $100,000 in my brokerage account? What is it going to feel like when I cross $1,000,000 in my brokerage account? How do I want to feel when I house hack and I buy my primary residence, take a HELOC, and then buy a secondary residence, move into that and rent the first one? What am I doing here? It's not financial advice, but what am I doing here to embody the moves that I want to make and how I want to feel about how I play with money so it can support me in my life? This is a time for me I really go deep and I really enjoy this. And something that I will say that I've been doing differently in my nights out, so to speak, is I've actually just been taking myself on a walk. And this is something I've talked about before. I used to make like a big thing of this. I'd go out on a date. I'd go to a nice restaurant. Justin and I have done this before where we go out, get champagne, we plan our year, we plan our goals, things like that. But for me, what's been easier, because I spend so much time on my computer already at my desk, I'm out on a walk. I'm talking to text into my phone. I'm in my notes app and I'm just talking about, I have some prompts to guide me, and I'm talking about and feeling through how I want to feel in this next level of building my wealth and why I'm still working towards it. And for me, these conversations have changed. They've changed from wanting to get out from underneath working for somebody where I wasn't happy. It's changed to I want to support myself. It's changed now to I want to support my team. I want to create a great place for them to work. It's changed to I want to, build a family. I want to invest. I want to play with money. I want to teach more people. I want to impact more people. That's why I'm doing this. So these conversations are very enlightening, and I think that they're very worthwhile to take yourself on a money date, whether it's at a sexy hotel. I don't know, maybe you're feeling crazy and you put on a sexy wig and do a little role playing with your money and embody that next version of you. But you're doing something to feel good about your journey. Give yourself the flowers you deserve and spend time cultivating a relationship with this thing so that we can take the charge away. We can make sure that we don't have unregulated emotions around money. It's something that we've spent so much time with that we know we can weather every storm. And I think that's a big lesson here, is weathering the storms of having a lot of money, feeling like we don't have enough money, in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health. This is the commitment that you're making with your money. Whatever relationship you're in, we're in relation to everything, right? I want you to lean into the goodness of the relationships that you have, the ones with your parents, your siblings, your friends, your coworkers, your lovers, your pets, and look into creating more goodness. And what is that piece of more goodness? And for me, it's attraction to creating more of this resource through automation, through compounding interest, through partnership with others, through leveraging my natural talents. So I'm not forcing it. I'm not fighting for money. It's flowing to me through the things that I like to do, through resting so I have better ideas, whatever. I just believe a little bit of reflection to fine tune and tune into how we want to be in relation with our money is so important. So if you go on a money date, take a picture, tag me on Instagram. I want to see what you're doing. I'm obsessed with you guys. Thank you for being here. Our next episode is going to talk a lot about the neutrality of money and how to avoid going broke. Like, have you heard about lottery winners who lose all of their money? I'm really interested in this. So we're going to talk about it on one of the next episodes. I promise gossip is coming. If you have not yet subscribed to the podcast, please do so on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And as the Toast Girls say, feel free to leave me a review about how beautiful, stunning, and smart you are, rich girl, because I love you. We're doing it. Thank you for being here, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Feeling rich? I hope so. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Old Money. If you have questions you want answered, email me at oldmoneypodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on social. We are at Old Money Podcast, and I am at your service. If this episode spoke to you, inspired you, helped you, if you took a single note, it would mean the world to me if you could please just take a minute to rate and review the podcast. And if you're not doing so already, subscribe. And if you have friends who like getting rich, please share this episode with them, even if it's just on your Instagram story. And I'd love you more than Jeff Bezos loves Amazon Prime. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Remember, I'm not your lawyer, I'm not your tax professional, and I'm not your financial advisor. The content presented in this podcast is intended to entertain, educate, inspire, and support listeners in their personal and professional development and does not constitute business, financial, or legal advice. In addition to that, this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products and services.